Can we talk a little bit about Trump? I know that in your first draft of one of your books, I don't know how long ago was that?
It was 2011.
Okay, 2011, you had a chapter about how somebody like Donald Trump could become president, and you used Berlusconi as an example, but you cut it from the book. Why did you cut it, and what did you say?
So I cut it because one of my colleagues who was kind enough to read the first version told me that I was crazy, that I will lose credibility to the book if I were to keep that in. And I think that for me it was a very easy conclusion, because the book that came out in 2012 was about how the United States is looking more and more like Italy, and not, unfortunately, in the good wine and food, but in the form of the way the economy is run, the form of corruption, whether it's institutional and so on. And so the natural outcome of the Italian economy was to have a prime minister like Silvio Berlusconi. So the idea of the United States having a sort of Trump president was not as foreign to me as was to most of my colleagues.
And now that we have him, how similar or different do you think the two are? Actually,
I think that in their campaign and in their personality, they're very, very similar, almost scary how similar they are. And one of the key elements that makes them so similar, actually let me tell you two, there are many, but one is they are phenomenal salesmen. And the second is they both come from a business that is by nature not very competitive and very corrupt. They're both real estate. And when people say, I know how the market works, real estate, I think that that's not my sort of a prototype of market, real estate. So I think that gives their background. However, there are two big differences in my view. One is that Berlusconi, I have to say, is a nicer person. I think he's more like the prototypical comedian than actually the tough guy that Trump wants to pretend he is. And I think that, for example, Berlusconi was never really in favor of any war. He was not a warmonger at all. He was like dragged into some wars by the United States, but it wasn't like his primary thing. Trump, unfortunately, seems a bit different there. So in that sense, this is a big, important difference. The second, which might seem a limitation to Berlusconi, but in fact, in the long term might be a benefit, is Berlusconi ran the first time for office because he feared, and maybe rightly so, that he would have lost his economic empire if the left had taken over at that time. And the reason is that he was under investigation, he was highly levered, so the combination of the two things would really have put at risk, serious risk, most of his wealth. You can say a lot of negative things about Trump, but I don't think that's the reason why he ran. In fact, I think he's more at risk of going to jail after running than before. So that's not the reason, and his empire was not at risk. Now, on the one hand, that's a big limitation for Berlusconi, because you say there is a hidden agenda here, and that limits the ability of being an effective prime minister and run the country in the interest of the people at large, not in the interest of one person. However, it turns out also to limit the downside. In the sense, once Berlusconi took power, besides taking care of his business, did not do much. And this is a big limitation because Italy drifted and became worse, but at least did not do like a major disaster. I'm not so sure we can sort of say the same for Trump. I think that I'm not sure what drives Trump, besides the fact he wanted to be elected. What is really driving his economic policy. When he was elected, people asked me what I predicted, and I thought one of the first things he would do is build a wall. And he has not actually built a wall. And he doesn't seem to follow very much on his electoral promises. I don't know what he's looking for, what is like really his final objective.